Lisa, your host of Unexplained Arkansas, the podcast, and today I have a best friend and a guest host, Kim.
Hello, everybody.
And she's so adorable. And me and Kim are going on an adventure over spring break with another one. And girls, and I'm so excited because it'll be my first all-girls beach trip.
Me too.
Yay! It'll be, I think I'm more excited than Elle.
Me too.
So I'm looking forward to it. Okay, so this is take 2. Me and Kim actually recorded this whole thing a couple nights ago, and then I sometimes do, I just walked away from it, and my computer literally shut down and updated, and it was gone. The whole episode was gone. So here we are. Kim's a trooper. Thank you, Kim.
Absolutely.
So Kim and her hubby Travis actually told me about this Kristin Laurite, about this case that we're covering today. And this is episode 72, and it's the awful, brutal murder of Kristin Laurite. So, just quick pod business, live show. It's, what is today, the 19th?
That's not very long.
I know, it's like 20 days, people.
Wow.
And so many of you are reserving your tickets or sending the cash app, so if you would like to make sure that you have a seat that night, all you have to do is message me or email me, and it's unexplainedarkansas@gmail. So, otherwise, just show up. There's, I think we're about third, headed into half sold out. So anyway, we are excited about it. It's a great venue, a big venue. So just show up to the show. And it is February 8th at 9 p.m. I know it's a late night. You can actually come and watch a movie at the Rialto in Searcy and then stay for the show.
Do you know what movie it is?
Oh, he told me. It's called Hit Pig. Like, I guess it's kind of like a Hitman Pig or something. It's a cartoon.
Okay.
I had not heard of it, but yes.
Me either.
Yeah. So, anywho, there is a trigger warning for this episode. It is a brutal murder. There is mention of sexual assault, but as always, I do not linger on the horrific details of that. So anyway, so I guess we're ready.
I'm ready.
Okay, so we're gonna act surprised.
We never did this before.
Yeah, this is the first time. So Kristin Laurite, she entered a rest stop on Interstate 40 south of Morrilton, Arkansas, on Friday, August 25th of the year 2000. Kristen was traveling from New Jersey to California, and she was looking to start a new, exciting life there. But sadly, Kristen would never make it. And so we will kind of, like I like to do, kind of start at the beginning of Kristen's life. So Kristin Ann Laurite was born Tuesday, January 28th of 1975. Her dad was Edward, her mom is Lynn, and she was born in Edison, New Jersey. And we kind of talked about this before, but do you remember what they're famous for? Edison?
It's only been a few days. Something about Thomas Edison.
Yes, exactly.
But not the light bulb, but something about it.
Yes, so he, it is the home to his industrial research laboratory. And if you're like a super young listener, I hope you know who Thomas Edison is, but he is the reason you have electricity in your home, just FYI. Yes. So he's very important. And it's really weird to me to think about the fact that they say the average home in Arkansas actually got electricity like in the 30s, the 1930s. So, I mean, less than 100 years ago.
Wow, what would we do without it?
Oh, I don't know nothing about it. That sounds scary. So I'm glad I was born when I was. So Kristen was christened with her mother's middle name, Ann, and I thought that was sweet. So they both have the same middle name. And her parents, they married in 72 and had Kristen in 75, but they would later divorce, and they both would remarry. Probably before the time that she's in high school is when they're both remarried, in like the, I would say late 80s, early 90s. They're both remarried. So yeah, definitely by the time Kristen was a teenager. And it doesn't really, there's not a whole lot, written about her early life, but it doesn't say if that affected her or anything, or, it just seems like she was very close with both of her parents from what I can see. So Kristen grew up some in Edison, but she did move over to Scotch Plains, New Jersey before high school, and she actually graduated Scotch Plains High School in 1993. And we mentioned my brother graduated in 93.
And me 92.
And you 92.
And
so
I did not realize how close in age we were, even when this happened. I'm sure it crossed my mind, but wow, it just kind of crazy.
That is kind of crazy. Cool. And I know you'll mention later, like, another similarity. So.
Yeah.
So she graduated in 93, and then she did go on to attend college at East Stroudsburg University in East Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania. That is a mouthful.
Mm-hmm.
And even though it's Pennsylvania to New Jersey, it's only, Pennsylvania was only 71 miles from her home. So she didn't go off very far, but she did go off to college. And it is said that she attended college there until December of 1994. So she didn't graduate, but she did stay there for a while, and then she left school to kind of pursue other interests, which we'll get into. So Kristen is described by both her parents as very strong-willed, independent, very loving, and giving and outgoing. And I can definitely see this independence considering she was on this trip across country. And Kristen's friends would say that she was a free spirit, she was kind-hearted, and a young hippie.
So that's what the pictures, when you see the pictures on your website and on the billboards, that's what she looked like a little flower girl.
Mm-hmm. Yes, like 1960s.
Yes,
almost.
She was born in the wrong era.
Yeah. She looked very, very cool. Very, we were talking about this before, very opposite. I think you were a prepster look in the 90s.
I was a nerd.
Band
nerd.
Band nerd, and I was definitely into the Gap and J. Crew and wearing a collar.
Yes.
Wearing a collar.
And her with her beads, probably in tie-dye, and her hair was, did you say
it was? She had dreadlocks.
Right.
And she had lovely hair, but...
Yes, it was really pretty long.
Yeah, it was like, it looked, I don't even know how you do that.
I don't either.
I don't know, but she did it, and it worked for her.
It worked for her, definitely.
I mean, if it looks like I have dreadlocks, it's because I haven't brushed my hair in days.
Me too.
But she was very lovely. And she, just like her free spirit itself, so she loved to travel, and it said that she had actually visited 48 of the 50 states. And she had even lived in Oregon for a bit, between 2000 and 94. And she loved animals, children, and she loved traveling around chasing her favorite bands, the Grateful Dead and Fish. And we talked about that. Did you know Fish?
Actually, no, and the only Grateful Dead I know are the ones that are the most famous songs. Mm-hmm. But I don't really remember Fish, but you said you did.
I do. I remember I had a friend that Corbett, he introduced me to Fish, and we love Dave Matthews Band. So
I know him. Mm-hmm. I know them.
I wonder if she liked him. I feel
probably.
Like she did.
Yeah,
probably, and some Smashing Pumpkins or whatever. But it just feels like she did. So
yes,
but yeah. So I did already post the thumbnail, and I will post other more pictures of Kristen when this episode comes out. So you'll see that. But yeah, she's very pretty. Big eyes, big smile, great hair, definitely looking young hippie. No, she had the beaded necklaces, and she drove a Volkswagen van.
Yeah, that's perfect. Goes right along with it.
I mean, how cool.
Yes.
And unique.
Very unique.
Especially considering, I'll get into her van, but, this is the year 2000, so yeah, that's in itself, she was driving an older vehicle, so yeah, she was just very, very cool, very hipster.
Had her own little style going.
She did. And so she also, let's see, so kind of between, it said January 1999 and then her final trip in August 2000. So Kristen had been working as a plant technician and a decorator at the Parker Greenhouses Farm and Garden Center in Scotch Plains. So she was back home during that time, I guess. And she had also worked as a daycare worker as well during this time. And it said in August, so by August she was 25, and Kristen had, I guess she had friends already out there, but she was headed to McKinleyville, California. So she was literally moving across country again, because she had already lived in Oregon. But she did plan to meet up with friends that already lived there. And then it did say that she planned to live there with her boyfriend. And so I don't know if he was already there or if he was meeting her, but it seems like I saw something that said that he was going after her. So she was literally taking this cross-country trip by herself.
Yeah, I wonder if she'd ever been to California. So
I don't know. I had a feeling she probably.
Yeah, she's been to 48 states. That's probably one of them. Yeah.
I can imagine. She seems like it.
But she wasn't afraid, that's for sure.
She wasn't. She was, very independent, evidently, because I can't even imagine making that trip. As a 25-year-old, I mean, maybe by the time I was 25, I don't know.
Well, as a blank-year-old, us driving to Florida and me driving my own vehicle, thankfully we have GPS now, which they did not back then.
I know. She would have had,
She had a map, I bet, like a paper map.
Yeah, in 2000, she would have had a paper map or maybe printed MapQuest.
You think TomTom was around then?
I don't know.
I know we had a TomTom around after Ruthie was born, so probably not.
I know I drove by myself. It was probably one of the first times I was just going to Oklahoma to meet my friend Lindsay to go watch Wicked. And I got very lost and very upset. But luckily I had a cell phone. Ooh. But I did print out my directions. So I didn't have, I had a phone, but it wasn't, sophisticated. And I didn't have one of those.
Well, in the day, we used to RV when Ruthie was just 2, and she's, 16 now. Mm-hmm. I would be like the map reader, and Travis would get so mad because I would turn the map as we were, the direction we were driving, because I had to turn it to where we were going. If we were going west, I had to turn that map kind of to the left, I guess. And he did not like that, but I just can't look at a map. Thankfully, we don't anymore, and read it. I can't, and I can't tell how far the little key is, so many miles. I can't do that, so thank the Lord for GPS and Google Maps and all that.
Yes. Yeah, that'll get
Young Maps.
Yeah. I'm so thankful for that, especially when we're going to be with driving teenagers.
And I'm hoping you're going to be leading and I'll follow.
Okay, I'll drive slowly. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. But yeah, so Kristen, she was awesome. She was on top of this. This is probably nothing to her. But she did pack up. Oh, and another report had said, so there's differing reports, but she may have already had a job lined up at a preschool facility, but another report said that she was going to get a job. That was her plan, to work at a preschool facility. So again, loves kids. That was her plan. So Kristen did pack up her 1971 gold and white pop-up Volkswagen bus, and she took with her her 2 best friends, her 2 dogs. So she had Winter, who was a black and white border collie, and then Sativa, a tan German Shepherd mix. And so she had her, I don't know, it sounds like they're girls, but she had her girls with her. And so at least she wasn't alone, because I know you're a dog person, I'm a dog person. They're like our babies.
Absolutely, they're good company.
They are. So I'm sure and again, I just don't think she was afraid. She had done this before, and this was just what she did. So it is said that Kristen wound up in Arkansas. And I did look at this because I'm thinking, okay, how? Because when you map out the fastest route from her home in New Jersey to McKinleyville, California, it's routing you the fastest way is to go, straight, start going west, and you're going to hit Chicago, Nebraska, Wyoming, Utah, Nevada, and
not
then
Arkansas, right?
Not Arkansas, unless, you would literally have to be going south from New Jersey and then west. So it would be interesting for me to know, so if anyone wants to phone us in, if was she going to see particular people? I could not find information because at first I was thinking, okay, maybe her mom lived somewhere else and she went to see her mom first and then went over. But everything that I could find with her mom had her in New Jersey. But that doesn't mean anything. I did try to dive as deep as I could into Ancestry, but there's just only so far it will go. But Anywho, that's my question on that. On Friday, it said that she pulled into a rest stop. So this would have been Friday, the day, of the incident or whatever, the 25th of 2000, and that's August. So she pulled into a rest stop area off Interstate 40 near Morrilton. And Morrilton is located almost directly in the middle of Arkansas. It is 51 miles to the northwest of Little Rock, and from my house and your house, it takes us about an hour and 15 minutes to get there. So not a bad trip. We've traveled there a lot for ball games and cheer.
And I traveled there to go to Fayetteville to see our college kid. Oh, yeah.
And I possibly might be traveling there to do. And I'm going to be going that way. I do have an event that I will be posting about in April, so I'm excited, and it's in Fort Smith. So,
and doesn't Interstate 40 go from one side of the country to the next? It goes all the way to California,
all the way to
California. Like wherever it starts at in the east.
Okay. Yeah, she would have been. Yeah, so it's just, I guess she just went south, and once you get on 40, yeah, it'll just take you right there. So interesting. And Morrilton is a relatively small town, and this rest stop wasn't actually in Morrilton. It wasn't part of the city of Morrilton, but it was outside of Morrilton. It was closest to Morrilton. So it's in the county, same county there, and we'll get into that. But Morrilton is small. At the time, it had about 6,500 people. And I did make a little side note. Their mascot is the devil dog.
And what is a devil dog?
I still don't know.
That is just kind of eerie in itself. A devil dog.
Oh, Daryl just sneezed. Surprises. So
That's interesting.
That is interesting.
Is there a picture of it, like, as the mascot goes?
I think it's just like a dog, but I think he has horns.
Ew.
Like maybe a mythical creature.
Okay.
Morrilton Knights, tell us more.
Yes.
So, phone me in. So evidently Kristen's van, she stopped because her van was overheating. And evidently it was very hot. Reports say it got up to 105 degrees that day.
Typical.
Yes. And our August, I will say, our summer, like our June, July, are not terrible, quote unquote. I mean, I remember one July 4th where it was still even chilly.
Yeah.
But August, by the time you get to August in Arkansas, it is horrible.
It's like y'all's devil's butt crack.
It is. It is the devil's butt crack.
Hot.
It's horrible. I don't like August. I could move somewhere else.
It's miserable.
August. Go north. But so yeah, don't visit us in August. Kind of wait. Or come earlier. But anywho, so it was very hot. So her van was overheating. And so she pulled over to the rest stop. It was about 2 p.m. and she did call her mom, Lynn. And she did let her know where she was at. So, I mean, again, she knows what she's doing. She's stopping in. People know where she is. And this rest stop did have, it doesn't say that Kristen had a phone. I don't feel like she did. It did not state anything about such. I don't think she was the phone type. But she did call her mom. And so she told her mom she planned on being at that rest stop until around 5. And so she was going to let the dogs run. She was going to
let her van cool off or whatever.
Yes. Yeah. And she did make evidently her van had, the engine was air cooled. And so it would just be much easier for her and better for her to drive at night.
Yes.
Was her plan.
That makes sense.
And being young, and that sounds great. Now I'm like, oh, I'm driving only in the daytime. I know. Yeah. So she was also letting Winter and Sativa get a break. And, of course, she was taking a break. So they were all taking a little break. So, of course, kind of completely unknown to Kristen, this particular rest stop had a reputation. And not a good one. So, in January of 1997, so we're talking, 3 years almost, 3 years before this, a truck driver named Arthur Joe Cotton. He was 71 years old, and he was found shot in the restroom. And they did find his killers. It was 2 brothers from West Virginia, and they were arrested and convicted for the homicide.
That is
crazy.
That
happened. Mm-hmm. Yes.
And if you're not from around there, you have no idea.
Yeah.
Like if she would have, even though it's not the same perpetrator, if she would have known something about that, maybe she would have stopped somewhere else.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Just knowing, about this restroom
it has
situation.
a bad reputation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, because, And evidently, so there was some other situations at other rest stops in our state, kind of in that realm. So in November of 1996, so a few months before that, another 71-year-old, his name was Russell Hinkle, and he was from Illinois, and he was traveling. He was shot and killed while he and his wife and daughter were at a tourist information center on I-55 near Blytheville, which is kind of close to Missouri, and it's in the Memphis realm.
That's a rough area, kind of is.
Yes, it is, and so and evidently, especially in that time frame, and that this situation. And it didn't say if they were apprehended or not, but there was another incident. It's like it keeps going. So, additionally, in April of 1997, so a man named William McDonald, he was another man traveling from Illinois. He was beaten and robbed by another two brothers, I don't know what that's about, at a rest stop. And it was I-40, but it's on the other side of the state from where Kristen was at. So this was Forest City. So it's probably just straight south of kind of the Blytheville on kind of the east side of our state. So even before Kristen stopped, the Highway Patrol had increased their patrolling of rest stops, and the state had tried to make some improvements for safety purposes, like better lighting, phones, and they did put in video cameras. However, sadly, on that day in August, the cameras were down for maintenance.
Of course.
And we are talking, of course, we think of cameras these days, they're wireless, everybody has them, and of course we have them on our phones. We're carrying around video cameras and computers on us, but this was the year 2000, and these video cameras were going down a lot. It wasn't near as common to have surveillance like we do now.
Like not good technology quite yet, just kind of in the beginning.
Yes, beginning stages, sadly. So sadly that camera there at that rest stop was not working. So the following day, Saturday the 26th, around 5 o'clock, so we're talking another 24 hours, time goes by, a husband and wife trucking team, they stop at that rest stop, and they notice two large dogs kind of wandering off the leash. And one remained near a yellow Volkswagen van, and the van had its doors completely open, like no one was in the van, no one near it, and of course this is odd. The husband was able to get Winter, the border collie, to come to him, and thankfully Winter had a phone number on his, collar, and the man called the number, and the phone was answered by Lynn, Kristen's mother. And immediately Lynn was concerned.
She knew something was wrong.
This was not, she knew Kristen would never abandon her dogs or her van. So she is, crying out to this man to find Kristen. Yes. Like, she's there. Find my daughter. Additionally, so Ed recounted later on, this is Kristen's dad, that Kristen would typically feed her dogs between 5 and 6. And it was notated that the dog food was still in the dog bowls. So when the vehicle was found. So that she hadn't fed yet. So sometime between talking to Lynn at 2,
her normal feeding time, something went wrong.
Yes. Because really she probably planned on even feeding them on the road. She planned on, not staying
out of there at 5.
So the truck driver, he did call 911. The county that this is in is Conway County. So the Conway County Sheriff's Department was dispatched along with the Arkansas State Police showing up. So they both showed up. So both departments immediately begin to look. And Kristen's dogs kind of lead them to a cattle pond that was around 1,000 feet from the rest stop where Kristen's van was. And this pond was kind of sitting in the middle of a hayfield and surrounded by woods. And it said that Detective Cleve Keeling of the Conway County Sheriff's Office, he stated that this area was kind of remote. So at around 7:30, this is the time frame when the dogs led the officers to Kristen's body. She was nude and face down. Her sandals were next to the shoreline. of the pond, and they found her dress hanging from a branch sticking out of the water. This is horrific. I mean, as mommies,
yes.
I mean, as a woman, this is terrible. It's absolutely horrible. At the time of being found, the Arkansas State Police and the Sheriff's Departments told reporters that there wasn't any evidence indicating Kristen had been raped or robbed. So this is what they were conveying probably like immediately. And really, Detective Keeling also said that without the help of the dogs, they didn't believe that they would have found her body for months, possibly. I mean, it was that remote, probably overgrown because of the time of year.
Yep. I'm sure nobody was mowing and taking care of it.
So it was just at this pond, quite a bit of ways from the rest stop. So a little side note, Kristen's family would hold her funeral on September 2nd at the Quinn Hopping Funeral Home in Scotch Plains. And I did find this a little bit interesting. There was, and it's not existing to this day, but there was an internet site made in Kristen's memory posted by a group of Volkswagen owners who helped her fix her van when it broke down along her trip. So I thought that was so
very sweet.
It's just so touching. And now that I think about it, I wonder if that could have played a part in why she was in Arkansas. Because she had been, I don't know, maybe
being a member of that club, maybe.
Maybe so, and that's why she...
That's possible.
Yeah. Interesting. So we'll see. So if anyone knows. And again, that website, was created in 2000, so I did try to look that up, and it's no longer active. But later on, an autopsy would reveal that Kristen had been sexually assaulted and then stabbed multiple times in the throat. I did find a story that said 10 times.
That's vicious.
Horrible. I get...
That's anger.
That is anger, and I don't we'll find out more later, but I don't understand it. And normally they say with that type of behavior, it is anger, and sometimes it's personal.
Yes.
So, anywho, that's
personal, either against her, against women, something. Yeah.
Yes. There are differing stories here. So again, one article stated that Sheriff Mark Flowers of Conway County said in a preliminary autopsy, and we talked about this before, kind of like maybe just a glimpse or just kind of looking, they didn't dive in, that Kristen had not been sexually assaulted. But then it was stated later that she was.
I think they should kind of personally wait to say stuff like
before
that.
You release.
Right, until you have all of it gathered, because, it kind of makes you look a little bit incompetent, like, why did you say that if you didn't even really know that? And, just kind of conflicting. But I don't know. I'm not in that business. So.
Yeah. And then I guess on the flip side, the reporters and everybody in the public is so concerned for numerous reasons. But they want to know, and I guess they feel compelled to say something. But, it does make it look like, okay, well, you said this. Yeah. But, you didn't really know.
Right. They just wanted to get something out there. I'm sure everybody was concerned and worried, and they just wanted to give them an answer. Yeah. And so just quickly
say something.
Right.
So the medical examiner also said he estimated that Kristen had been dead 6 to 12 hours before she was found at 5. Or actually, she wasn't found until 7:30. They got there the truckers evidently got there at 5. So I can't imagine, because I don't. Anyway, I just
if she would have left at 5, weird. If she could have left at 5, that would be out of that time frame, right?
Yes, that would mean that this perpetrator held her somewhere, and then
maybe tortured her and then killed her.
I just don't think that happened.
It could be an inaccurate guess. You think?
I think so. I think it's just an inaccurate guess.
Yeah, me too.
I'm thinking, because that doesn't line up with what we'll know in the future.
I don't think the killer would have hung around for several hours with people coming and going like that. Kind of stupid.
Yes, I agree. I'm with you on that. Yes. There also was very little blood at the scene where the body was found. So investigators wondered, so that's another thing. So investigators wondered if she was actually killed elsewhere and then just placed at this location by the pond. The police couldn't find the murder weapon either, and they did drain the pond, but they still did not locate any weapon. They located her clothes. They had her clothes. They did not state anything about, like, normally there's responses about, like, purse, keys, those, and like I said, if she did have a cell phone, but none of that was mentioned. So I'm guessing if she did actually have a purse, she might not have been a purse lady, being, hippie-ish, I don't know, maybe a backpack person, but or what do you call those? Fanny pack person. I don't know. Like, whatever she just may have not been a purse person.
And no scene of blood, like a possible murder scene anywhere, nothing was mentioned.
Nothing, they just said very little blood, like it wasn't, and obviously if it was 10 stab wounds,
that would
have been.
Yeah, that would be
it would have been bloody. So that was of note.
What a mystery.
And they did collect all kinds of other materials from the scene, luckily. So there were cigarette butts, empty beer cans near her body, and luckily and thankfully, these items would supply the police with DNA. And Kermit Channel of Arkansas, he was the DNA expert of Arkansas at the time. He submitted her DNA profile, or the DNA profile found of the assailant, to the FBI Laboratory's National DNA Index System. And he also sent the information directly to hundreds of local law enforcement offices, just trying to connect to these, known assailants out there, people that had, because obviously this is horrific, and you want to solve it, but they're thinking that this person has done this before.
Oh, that's what I'm thinking too, because that's just, sounds like he knew exactly what he was doing, and you don't just stumble upon something like that. He must have, just stalked her a little bit there, maybe pulled over around the same time, and yeah, he knew what he was doing. Definitely. Definitely.
I agree. So, meanwhile, the Laurite family and friends were desperate, of course, to find her killer. So they, brilliantly, they raised funds to purchase billboards. And they would place these along this I-40 corridor where Kristen stopped. And the billboards read, "Do you know who murdered me?" with pictures and descriptions of Kristen. And I have posted these billboards already, so check out Facebook and Instagram. It was brilliant. It was smart, and kudos to them.
Yeah, you're not going to drive by that and not look. It's going to get your attention. So, it's very great for them to do that.
Yes, and in my head, even the last time we recorded, I was thinking of that. There was I don't know if it was a movie. I think it was a movie. I think it was called something Missouri, and it was like someone got killed, and the mom put up billboards, and it did help figure out who, what, where. And it was based on a true story.
That makes sense.
I don't remember the movie now, but it was such a good movie. And I'm pretty sure it had that great actress. I can't. Frances McDormand, a Fargo lady. Anyway.
I love her.
She's, yes. So in 2002, so kind of, nothing, they're of course definitely investigating, pursuing whatever they can. They're talking to everybody. They're doing whatever they can. But in 2002, the DNA found at Kristen's crime scene finally produced a hit. It didn't produce a name, but it did produce a hit. So it was found to be a match to DNA involved in another woman's murder. The other woman was Jackie Travis. Jackie was found murdered in her apartment in Merced, I think it's called Merced, California. And this was early December of 2000, so right after Kristen.
Yep.
So Jackie was a 49-year-old disabled woman. It stated that she had a prosthetic leg. Evidently, she had had a vehicular accident and lost a leg. And she had been brutally beaten, raped, strangled, evidently not stabbed, but oddly enough, she did have some symbols carved into her skin. And I don't understand that.
It sounds kind of like whoever this killer is, he's trying some different methods, just kind of playing around, see what he likes best. But I knew he wasn't a one-timer. Yeah.
Yeah. Oof. Awful. So, oddly connecting to Kristen was the weird fact that Jackie, she's killed in California, but she had briefly lived in Newport, it said, and evidently another article had stated she was from Jonesboro originally.
Okay, Arkansas.
And now she's in California.
May not have any connections, but really weird.
That is really weird. So Carl Bird is special agent with the Arkansas State Police. So he, at a news conference when all this is coming about, and evidently they held it near Kristen's place where she passed, but he stated these two homicides were committed by the same person, and he also stated what that has done has increased the evidence pool of the investigation, and that there were also clues beyond DNA that linked the two cases, but he could not elaborate on what.
Gotcha.
And again, this is an investigation. They can't tell all, so they have to hold certain clues, as when they're looking for someone. So this did raise concern that not only was the suspect a killer, but possibly a serial killer. And we did last time we did look up the definition.
Because I was like, how many murders do you have to commit to be a serial? And so according to Wikipedia, it has to be 3 or more, and they can't be connecting to each other as far as, was it like location? Something like
time
that?
frame.
Time frame, okay. And so, yep.
So it's interesting. So I guess, obviously when I covered the Christmas killer, Ronald Gene Simmons, he couldn't be classified necessarily as a serial killer because he killed literally all within the same time frame, but he was a mass killer.
Okay, so that's what it is if you do multiples within a time frame.
Mm-hmm.
Mass as opposed to serial.
Yes. Yeah, because the serial is kind of like you're going to keep on doing
continuing
it.
Maybe.
And those people they might be connected by whomever you're profiling, but they're not Gene just killed his whole family and everyone that he had grievance against in Russellville. So weird.
And I forgot to ask last time, and I didn't even think about it, but do you know when they closed that rest stop where she was murdered?
No, all it said was, it seemed like it was immediate.
Okay, because when you drive by it, and it has been for many, many years, it's like, it's gone. Like maybe 100 feet of exit is left, and it's blocked off.
Yeah.
So I was just trying to remember when that happened.
Yeah, it seemed like immediate.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And I would say so. I mean, I can't imagine you already had one murder in 97 and that horrific ordeal. So kind of likewise in 2002. So Sheriff Mark Flowers said that there were similarities between Kristen's death. Now this is a different death. Kristen's death and a 1994 murder of another woman who was found in Morrilton. This woman's remains were never identified and still never identified. And I will be plugging the website that you can go to actually check out this woman's description of her teeth and clothes and whatever. So if you had anyone go missing in 1994, there were remains. And they were found near train tracks a few miles from the rest stop. So this is why the police were thinking, they were trying to connect, but this is literally a Jane Doe situation. And like I said, I will link that in my show notes.
If it was him that did it, that could have been possibly number one.
Yeah.
Or, maybe one of many.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. So it's very, terrible.
Yes.
And I wonder at this point, I don't know, obviously, I don't know if that woman's remains had any, now there's just far more advances in the DNA and such. So hopefully that woman, they can either figure out who it was or figure out who killed her or whatever.
Yeah, with all the advances of familial DNA, that's really big right now. So maybe something like that.
So if anybody's listening and you had someone in your family or a friend go missing, check, maybe phone, again, I will link that, and that's Conway County. So, but Sheriff Flowers in 2002 would also state to ABC News this statement: I don't believe this is the first time this person has killed, and I don't believe it will be the last.
Yep.
So, because at this point, I mean, literally, he's killed 2 people that they know of.
Yep. Possibly possibly 3. And
yes. So, unfortunately, he was correct. It isn't until 5 years later, in 2007, that Kristen's family would get the news that Kristen's killer was now known. And this was a man named Ronald James Ward Jr. And we're going to dive into this awful piece of human.
Let's do that.
Ugh,
Yes.
tired of these Ronalds.
I'm not going to say what I said last time. Ronald Wayne Gacy.
Oh, yeah. That's funny.
But I just said it.
It would be funny if his name was, or, interesting.
But it's not.
But still, Ronald,
John.
we had a Ronald Gene Simmons, Ronald James Ward. Ugh. Well, Ronald Ward Jr., and I will call him Ward, kind of moving forward, but he was born September 28th of 1966, so he was almost 10 years older than Kristen. He was born in Hood River, Oregon. His parents, Ronald Sr. and Renee, had a volatile marriage, according to Ward. He said his father was an abusive womanizer who gave his mother syphilis, and that once his father divorced his mother, he then went on to remarry 8 more times.
I don't really know what to say about that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I don't either. I mean, I think I said this before, and I did look in Ancestry, and that is very true, because there were a lot of marriage licenses connected to his dad. I did see that legally. He did have a lot of marriages.
That is terrible, because I'm sure they all contracted it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yes.
That's awful.
Mm-hmm. Ugh. And to know such, I mean, why
would you tell? How did the boy know? Did they tell him? That's just awful.
It is awful.
Not an excuse for maybe what he did in the future, but it sounds like his childhood was kind of messed up.
Yes, it does, definitely. And we talked about this, the kind of the psychology behind it, the nature versus nurture. I do believe it's both, and because you'll have really awesome people grow up in horrible situations, and vice versa. So, and Ted Bundy had a nice mom. Anywho, that was totally, supportive of him. But anywho, so Ward himself stated that he did quit going to school in the 6th grade. And by the age of 19, he actually was married. He married a woman named Donna, and she had 6 kids. And that's hard to be. I mean, he is literally 19.
And a father of 6.
Mm-hmm. And he said he counted himself as a stepfather, but also as adoptive children. So he felt like they were his kids, and he stated and this is him talking, so who knows, but he would take them on family vacations, activities, outings. He tried to do the things with them that his father never did with him. And if that is true, I do think that is outstanding, that he was trying to do opposite.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But who knows? So he also stated he held a job as a football coach for 7th and 8th graders in Coos Bay, Oregon, and this was during his time he was married to Donna. So
that's not bad to not have a high school education or diploma. I don't know how that happened, but that's pretty impressive.
Yes, and to being a 19-year-old with married and 6 kids.
Yeah,
it's crazy. Mm-hmm. I can't even imagine.
No.
But Ward and Donna did end up separating, and it said that she moved to Arkansas, and he ended up being a drifter. So their marriage really failed for multiple reasons, but he was very heavily into drugs. And he couldn't keep a regular job. I'm sure he was not fun to deal with.
No.
So it's stated that after their marriage ended, that he took odd jobs just to kind of make ends meet or to have food or whatever. He was a truck driver. He was a home builder or in construction, I'm sure. And then he did some commercial fisherman work to make money.
So he got around.
Mm-hmm. He was traveling.
Yes, he was.
And you know how that goes. So, with this kind of thing. So in 1999, after working on a fishing boat in Alaska, it said that Ward met a woman named Hattie Baker, and he met her in a homeless shelter actually in Montana. And she was staying there with her children, whose dad had left the family. and left her to fend for herself by herself with these kids. Horrible. And Ward and Hattie, upon meeting and, hitting it off, I guess, they moved to West Virginia for a bit where Hattie had family.
Okay.
So, and this is 1999. So, between August of 2000, when Kristen passed, and then December 2000, which was when that Jackie was killed. So, just a short 4 months, Ward would commit 4 murders. And Kristen's was the first. And these are what they're aware of. We'll say what they're aware of. So according to Ward, he found, and this is he's stating the circumstances. He found Hattie with another man, and he was angry and shocked. So he stormed off, and he was evidently doing garbage truck work, and he took the garbage truck he was working for, and he claimed he was going to drive it to Montana to look for his mother. This was his claim. And on his travels between West Virginia and Montana, allegedly, he brought along, which I do believe this part, 5 jugs of moonshine, cocaine, and heroin.
Okay.
This is what his traveling items of choice.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So obviously he's not in a good way.
No.
So while en route, and obviously, according to him, also highly intoxicated, he says he just happened to stop at that rest area at the same time as Kristen, and that's when he said and this was according to an article, according to his words, that he beat, strangled, and raped, and stabbed her to death. So that's what he's saying. Now, in my opinion, this doesn't make sense. I mean, if you look at a map, and obviously this man is high, this man lies, this man, is not in a good way. So, I mean, obviously, if he's truly going from West Virginia to Montana, you're not going to go through Arkansas.
No, he made a turn south. Is that right? Or something?
He would have been coming straight, logistically, he would have come a little southwest from West Virginia. But yeah, I mean, if you were really going to Montana, you would have been working your way northwest instead of
wouldn't be
straight
coming
west.
this way. Mm-hmm. Is that an I-40? Would that? I mean, I can't.
I don't even know if he would have been on I-40.
But definitely, it was not on what you would expect the path. So
no.
Why do you think he?
I think so. It did say his ex-Donna landed in Arkansas.
Okay,
and she had kids in Arkansas. I think he, in his mind, was thinking Arkansas. I'm going to find Donna, or I'm going to find her kids, or I'm going to hook up with them, or something, because he's allegedly mad at Hattie. I'm going to go find Donna.
Well, it's a shame because it sounds like we don't know why Kristen went down to Arkansas, but it's just one of those cases of she was at the wrong place
and the
wrong time, and here he comes off his trail or whatever he's up to, and it just it just happenstance. Yeah. Like literally, what do they call that? A crime of circumstance. And it would have happened to someone else. I mean, there's no doubt he wouldn't have killed someone else, but that's terrible. That's just the way it works. Just looking for someone alone. Yep, and she was perfect. Oh man, it's very depressing. Yeah, it's like all the if only she would have left a little earlier. She went to the next stop or the stop before, and you can't really live that way though on what could have been. But it's just awful. I know. Yes. Ugh. It's just. I'm sure her mom did think stuff like that. Yes. Like if only. Oh yeah. Ugh. Immediately after this, not sure if he even made it to Montana. I mean, who knows? There's nothing saying he did or didn't, but according to him, he then got back together with Hattie. So he had to have gone back to West Virginia for Hattie. And then they together moved to Montana, and they settled in an RV park in Hamilton, Montana. There, Ward met a man named Craig Petrick, I think, who was selling his motorhome. And in October 2000, Petrick disappeared suddenly. And 2 weeks later, his bullet-riddled body was found in the Sapphire Mountains. Authorities quickly, thank goodness, connected Ward to this and went after him. But Ward and Hattie had already fled Montana.
They had already left between this 2 week, between
when they killed him when he killed him and when they found his body.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Ward, and later on, Ward would actually state that Petrick assaulted Hattie. This is his alleged story, and again, he's a killer. He's a liar.
You can't take anything he says true.
He's trying to separate himself from, what he did. So he says that Petrick assaulted Hattie, and then which resulted in a fight, and then that resulted in him killing Petrick. But authorities, and I'm sure based on all the evidence and everything that they gathered from, where Petrick was found even, did not believe that, and they instead believed that he took Petrick to the Sapphire Mountains and then beat him up, shot him 3 times, and then hit him in a rock crevice.
Wow. Yeah, and I'm sure they've got a reason to think that. So
yes. Ward and Hattie were on the run from Montana, and they landed in California. Just remember Jackie. So in December, Ward killed 2 women. So he killed Jackie Travis, who he mentioned, we mentioned earlier, that was connected in 2002 to Kristen through the DNA link. Yeah. Now, Ward would kill her in her apartment in Merced on December 7th. So that's when it happened. Then right after killing Jackie, he's on a spree, he killed a woman named Sheila Pauley, a 32-year-old woman who was living in Modesto, and she was found beaten, stabbed, and sexually assaulted. Very, very familiar, both these ladies, to Kristen's situation. And her body was dumped and covered with leaves in Modesto's Dry Creek in December 2000. And not a lot is known about hers, and we'll kind of discuss a little bit later on these 2 cases, but witnesses would later claim to see Ward with Sheila before her death. So he was connected to her. And obviously they got, the DNA connected all this.
Where do you think Miss Hattie was during all of this? Do you think
That's
she
a big
knew?
question.
I wonder.
I think she definitely knew. Now, whether she allowed herself to believe, and we'll talk about that more.
Okay.
Which is crazy to me. But anyway, so Ward was arrested in January of 2001. So they apprehend him, and they're hunting him for the Montana killing. Okay, and he's still with Hattie. So they apprehend him in California for the Petrich. Maybe it's Petrich. It's Petrich, guys. But anyway, Petrich or Petrich. And he was extradited to Montana, where he went on trial for Gary's murder. I'm going to call him Gary. And he did readily confess to it. Again, he confessed in his roundabout way of
a self-defense
thing. So he did say he did it, but
they didn't believe it.
Yeah, he had.
Whatever.
Yeah. And he was tried, and he was given a life sentence. So he was sentenced, and this is 2001, for Gary's death in Montana. So he is serving a life sentence there. In 2002, of course, is when the authorities connect the dots between Kristen's death and then Jackie Travis's death. But, nothing would officially be connected to Ward until 2006. Yeah. So the state of Arkansas had Ward, in 2006, they had Ward extradited. So Ward pleaded what's called nolo contendere, which is Latin, into the murder indictment. So evidently he was originally going to plead guilty, but he stated he couldn't plead guilty because he had no memory, according to him, of killing Kristen. Of course he didn't. So the nolo contendere, that just means you're not contesting the indictment and you do not have a defense. So he's stating he believes he did it because obviously the DNA is not lying. And he knows he was at that rest stop. I guess he remembers conveniently that. But he's saying he could not, due to his intoxication and due to his drug situation, he could not remember the actual act.
Do you think he's lying?
Your
personal opinion?
I think he's definitely lying. Definitely.
But by doing that kind of a plea, does it get him a lesser sentence?
Oh,
I mean, what's the point?
I don't know because it really didn't help him.
Okay.
And he's already serving a life sentence. So, and again, and they did not state, there was an article that stated, so he was not a stupid person, not a dumb person, they said, but he was unlearned. He was uneducated. Yeah. I mean, he left school in 6th grade. So I don't think he truly understood things that maybe and really I think when it comes to the law, a lot of people don't understand.
No.
That's why you get an attorney. That's why but he truly didn't understand everything. Okay. And I think that maybe in his mind, he just seemed to me to push away, it's never his fault.
Right.
So that's to me his personality.
Gotcha.
And who knows? But that's what I think. Okay. Now he did receive, so even though he didn't plead guilty, he was tried and he was sentenced to another life sentence here in Arkansas for Kristen.
So it really made no difference.
It really made no difference. It was horrendous, it was awful, and yes. Not long after authorities connected him to Kristen's death, they did connect him to the 2 murders in California, and it is said that the famous FBI profiler Johnny Douglas, that is the man who the show Manhunter is fashioned after, which I love that show, and it's going to go into a 3rd season hopefully. But so he says he dismisses the claim from Ward that he is a non-violent person. This is according to John Douglas.
That's laughable.
Mm-hmm.
Non-violent.
Yeah, he's non-violent because John Douglas pointed out that the serial killer often blames things like drug abuse for their actions, and he felt like Douglas definitely did that, and feels like Ward definitely committed many murders that he didn't even get pinned for. So he was thinking, this was not...
I am apt to believe that as well.
This was not just for.
Right.
This is just what they could get
for that
on.
he got caught on.
Yes, and really it's just a blessing that he was, after the Montana killings, that the police knew and could go after him like they did.
Exactly.
And luckily they did, because he was clearly on a murder spree that wouldn't have ended.
No, it would not have ended clearly.
Yeah. So regarding Kristen and her family, so Lynn spoke out after the trial in Arkansas, stating, "Finally, justice will be served for the brutal murder of my daughter. Although the pain never goes away, I will finally get some peace of mind knowing that this alleged predator will never again be part of society."
Yeah.
And kudos to Lynn. I mean, I just can't even imagine being in her situation. No. As for Ward, so after his time in Arkansas in 2007 when we extradited him, of course, he's sent back to prison in Montana because he goes there to serve the sentence there, quote unquote. So on April 11th, 2014, he was found unresponsive in his high security cell. He was transported to the hospital and pronounced dead. The medical personnel did not report the exact cause, and probably because of HIPAA rulings or whatever, but said that there was no foul play involved. I was luckily able to locate his death certificate, and it states he committed suicide by taking too much, and you're going to say the word, citalopram. Sister drug is Celexa and Lexapro.
Yes.
And it does say, and I looked this up about that, it says it is extremely hard to overdose on such, and that typically, even if you do take too much, 85 or 95%, I think it was very high, 95% of people survive.
So do you think maybe, and I think I said this last time, maybe he was prescribed that. Do you think maybe he was just holding on to them until he had enough that he thought it would kill him? Mm-hmm. Because he's a coward and wanted a way out?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Because, I mean, unless someone just brought him a whole bunch. And I don't know.
And I don't know. You always hear interesting things about
some shady stuff.
That they can get maybe I mean, the people in there are not obviously law-abiding.
But you would think he would want something a little stronger if that was the case.
But maybe that's all he could get.
Right. That's true.
And he's not, again, a learned person.
No.
He could have just paid someone for something, and maybe, and it does sound like he had a horrendous situation, because obviously he didn't die right away. They sent him to the hospital. And I did read up, when you do overdose on this, it is horrendous. It is, yeah.
That's just so sad.
I'm sorry. It is sad, but then again, I'm like,
not for him.
Lord.
Why do you think
it's like diarrhea, nausea. It's not a pleasant death. It's not.
He probably didn't know that.
And no, I don't think he had a clue. So
why do you think they wouldn't want the public to know that? You think her parents?
I think
know?
No, I think just because of the HIPAA rules. I think that's the only reason. Now, her parents could be like me. You know, they could have always filed. I mean, obviously, the state of Montana, and not every state puts things in public records.
So they could have.
But they could have gotten a public record. And I'm sure, you know, I'm finding this these days. I don't know how long it took to get to the public record. But I'm sure they could have had an attorney get it. If they even cared.
Right.
Mm-hmm. They may not have even cared of how, just good riddance.
Yeah. Exactly.
But on the flip side of that, also, it's like he shortened his own sentence.
Yes, he did.
Coward all the way.
Yes.
Ugh. It just drives me crazy.
No.
It does remind me of it's horrible other Ronald Gene Simmons, and that he wanted to die quickly because, anyway, just he wants his way.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I did notice on the death certificate, just FYI, he was still married to Hattie at the time of his death. He was not a divorced man, and so she stayed with him. And I don't know if legally she stayed with him or if she was actually with him.
That's interesting.
So she stayed with him, and of course she had to, quote unquote, know what he did. But maybe, you know, people tell themselves all kinds of things when they love someone.
Well, even if he confessed, you know, so that's not like he denied it. Oh, how could you?
But he spun it. He's like, well, I did it for Hattie.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Well, at least on that one murder. Now, obviously, how does Hattie justify him killing these other women? These 3 women.
Is she still alive today?
You know what? I don't know. I didn't find anything that said she had passed, and he passed pretty young. So I would think she's still alive.
Okay.
Because he was born in '66. So yeah, she would have. You know, I think she would have been about the same age.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
That's very. Yeah.
So all I could find about the other deaths, Travis and Polly, was that the state of Arkansas did not pursue any trials. And I'm guessing they talked to their families and just decided that, because obviously Ward was serving 2 life sentences. And anywho.
Saved them the emotional mess of a trial.
Grief and knowing that he's not going anywhere.
Right.
Yeah, but for whatever reason, California and their families did not pursue anything. It pains me very much that Kristen was struck in her prime, obviously. I mean, she was 25, she was beautiful, she was, you know, living her best life, and, you know, she had the misfortune of being in the wrong place, the wrong time, with a serial killer at a rest stop during the day. And I know Kristen's death has saved many other women from similar issues. You know, I know so many women that will never stop at a rest area, or if they do stop while traveling, they are very, very, very cautious. And I know I've told my daughter, and I'm very cautious, and I've told any woman that I talk to, even Daryl's mom, you know, if she's going to be traveling alone, I'm like, don't stop at a rest stop, don't stop anywhere follow your instinct, ladies. Your gut will tell you what to do. And I do think that that's also in my own head, you know, the Heavenly Father. But
my college girl that travels that same exact road, she has a place that she stops on up the road closer to Alma in that area. It's always very busy. It is a truck stop, and that makes me a little nervous, but it is a very big place.
Well lit.
And yes. And we also like to Life 360 her when she's traveling, but she knows to never stop somewhere that is a rest area or somewhere not well lit, like you said.
Yes.
And sometimes she'll even call while she's there. Yes, just try to make it. If something happens to your car, try to make it to a well lit area. I mean, it'll keep you up at night thinking about this stuff.
And it will. And also, the bad part is, you know, knowing about cases like Ted Bundy, you know, that you can't fall for anyone pretending to be someone.
And he was charming. I mean, you could see why the girls were like, "Oh, I'll help you."
People thought he was handsome. I didn't. I've seen it, but
he wasn't hideous, but he was a little creepy.
He was very creepy. He had wild eyes.
Yes,
anyway, don't trust. You sit in that car and you sit on your phone with your parents
and be aware of your surroundings.
Lock the doors. Oh, we can't say that enough. Mm-hmm. Just we have girls. Huge shout out to her family and friends for the billboards and bringing awareness and not letting Kristen's death be silenced. I really do think their perseverance definitely made the connections happen and brought justice and answers probably way sooner than they could have been. I hate to say it, the squeaky wheel or whatever. Yes, definitely. So please, my lady friends and men friends, because there were two men too. Yes, they have to be just as careful. Yes, and those two men, were killed at the rest stops. But please be aware of your surroundings and be safe and kiss your loved ones and just have someone watch you and share your location. I'm all about that.
Me too. You're never too old to do that.
Have me and Amber shared locations with each other, and so we were talking today, and she was so funny. She was like, "Oh, I saw yesterday you were out and about, so I didn't call you."
Well, hey, she's watching.
She is watching. I'm so thankful. And then I shared my location with my sister-in-law, and then my sister, and when my mom was living, she knew, and of course Daryl and Elle watch me. But anyway, it doesn't bother me. I mean, I love it. So I'm like, just watch me, guys. But anyway, thank you, guys. Thank you, Kim. This is round 2. So
it's just as good the second time.
Yes. Maybe even better.
Maybe.
I'll tell myself that. So thank you guys for listening and stay tuned. So after this episode, the next one is going to be on the Gal Row. And if I'm saying that right, but it's the cryptid of Arkansas. And I think there's been sightings in Missouri. I haven't even dived into this yet. I'm very excited. I do have some cryptid podcast friends. They have their own podcast that they strictly talk about cryptids. So they're going to be with me. And it's Elaine and Cody Johnston. I'm very excited. Cool. So that's coming out. This one will come out the 20th, and then that one will come out the 27th. Yeah. So, and then I am working on John Wayne Gacy's Connection to Arkansas. I'm doing that, and then of course we've got our live show, which will be airing. So lots of good content coming your way. I'm excited. Lots of fun stuff. So come to the live show. Oh,
I'll be there.
You will be there, and there's tons. I got to tour the White County Courthouse with the White County Judge, Lisa Brown. Oh gosh, so much interesting stuff. It was so awesome. So I'm going to be touching base with other people to give me even more information, and of course diving into the Historical Society's book. So anyway, it's going to be an awesome episode and fun details about the Rialto. Okay, well thank you guys. Bye.
Bye.
Love ya.